It had been 10 years. It was the longest manhunt. And it was just amazing. When the news came that he was dead, of course, my first thought was he assassinated? Or did we try to capture him? It turns out we tried to capture him. Obviously, from the perspective of an international law scholar, you want these people to face trial to the extent possible, even if it's a flawed trial process, as was the case with Saddam Hussein. But the circumstances of the firefight didn't allow for that. It'll be very interesting to see the firsthand accounts from the Navy SEALs as to how the situation unfolded. I think that'll be telling. I think the stock of the United States goes up considerably after this. Um, in some quarters, especially in the Muslim world, the fact that we were never able to ground Osama bin Laden, I think perhaps allowed them to characterize us as a bit of a paper tiger. And maybe our intelligence services weren't as good as advertised. They can't say that now. Eventually we get our man. It may take a while, but eventually we get our man. Clearly he was not a good Muslim. And so I think those in the Muslim world should be cognizant of that fact, especially in Pakistan. I mean, the Pakistanis are very sensitive about their sovereignty. For years, we've been conducting drone strikes in Pakistan, ostensibly without the official permission of the Pakistani government, although there's a bit of a wink and a nod. And the local Pakistani population just hates this. Now we've carried out a full-scale, military insertion, and this special forces operation just outside their capital is bound to rankle Pakistani nerves on the sovereignty question. And so when they asked, why did you violate our sovereignty so blatantly, I suppose the return question to them is, why was Osama bin Laden sitting right outside your capital if you're our ally? So that's probably a wash.
That was my next question. It was, what's going to happen now that people realize he's been hiding in plain sight, and the Pakistanis knew.
Right. If not the Pakistani military, then certainly the Pakistani intelligence services, which work hand in glove with the military. It's hard to say. Abbottabad is a military town. There's military installations all over the place. Officers live there. It's really become developed in the past 5 years. This was the largest mansion in town. Surely people talk about who's living in the largest mansion in town, just like in small town America, who lives in the biggest house on the town square. Everybody knows who that is. It's either the banker or the lawyer or whoever. I think it will be interesting to see what happens with the Taliban. The demise of Osama bin Laden means that there's an opportunity here for a political settlement in Afghanistan to the war. The Taliban have always had the Osama bin Laden card in their back pocket. Even if they didn't control him, they were able to telegraph to the Afghan government, to us, to NATO and our allies, look, you don't know if we have Osama or not, but we might. And so therefore we're more of a threat. Now that bin Laden is gone, we've taken that card out of the Taliban's deck, and I think probably a little bit of wind out of their sails. With Al-Qaeda significantly degraded, the Taliban aren't symbolically as strong in the Muslim world as they were. So this will definitely hurt the Taliban's ability to recruit young men to fight in the war in Afghanistan. And I think they know that. So this could be the beginning of a political settlement to end the war in Afghanistan and, most importantly, bring our troops home. I'm fearful that the evidence we may have lost through a surgical strike like this is the evidence that could be obtained if we had secured the compound and methodically gone through and grabbed the computers and the databases that were at that military compound, because that could have led us to Ayman al-Zawahiri, the number 2 in al-Qaeda, and perhaps others. I would assume bin Laden knew where all these people were. But because of the political sensitivity of the situation in Pakistan, we just had to get in and get out. I'm fearful that the evidence that we could have gotten is now lost.